that was just one of the many happy times that we've had together. It was also our privilege at our medical practice. Cynthia's here. I see Dr. Hanneli's not here yet, I don't think. She wanted to come, but I think she's been busy. But it was our privilege to treat Wendy over some 10 years about, In 40 years of medical practice, I don't recall somebody coming back from so many different diseases, injuries. You name it, she had it. So often do I recall Wendy pitching up at the practice with Mom, and there'd be bandages wrapped around an arm or a leg. And we'd start a stitching process. Not only that, I remember when she fell here at the church about 5 years ago, fractured her hip. And I discussed the x-rays with the orthopedic surgeon, and he said she'll never walk again. So let's see what we can do, try and make life comfortable for her. But it was about 3 or 4 months later, she was walking. Yeah, so it's been so I think we can really say at our practice, she was, if not one of our favorite patients, but our favorite patient. So it was a great privilege for us to be with her and serve her. And I just really want to commend Wendy as well for hanging in there and being nurse, counselor, advisor, and without you, Wendy, yes, we see the helpers came in at a later stage, but Wendy, you were there. You were the rock that your mom was able to lean on, especially towards the end. So thank you for that. I'd like to share a few thoughts with you from one verse in Psalm 116. And it's Psalm 116, verse 15. Just one verse. It says, "Precious in the sight of the Lord is the death of his saints." Precious in the sight of the Lord is the death of his saints. On earth, we've experienced death as a painful thing to a large extent. But in heaven, death is precious. I want to ask you this morning, why is death precious in the sight of the Lord if it's one of his saints? And some thoughts. When someone's been away for a long time and they come home and the family are waiting for them, is it a time of mourning or a time of joy? There's always joy in being reunited with someone that's been away, right? And when someone comes home to heaven, it's a special time. It's a welcoming home. Number 2, it's a welcoming into the family of God. There's a family up there that's not complete. And as people come back into the family, it's a uniting of a family that's been waiting for other family members to come. It's a precious time. But third, and probably the most important reason why, in the sight of God, death of his saints is precious, is because Jesus is seeing the reward of his suffering. Jesus went through death on a cross. Probably not a cross as smooth and as well carpentered as that one. And we don't see the nails there on that one. We don't see the blood that dripped onto the ground. We don't see the sweat. We don't see the wounds on that cross. But there was a cross where there was blood, there was sweat, there were open wounds. And Jesus sees his saints coming back into heaven, and he says, it was worth it. I'll do it again if I have to. But the Bible says it's not necessary. It was once was enough. It was one sacrifice for all time. And so there's so much rejoicing in heaven when a saint comes home. And so Psalm 116 says, precious in the sight of the Lord is the death of his saints. I want to believe that a week ago there was joy in heaven when our sister Audrey was reunited with her heavenly family. Of course, this begs the question, does everybody go to heaven when they die? Well, you can have your own thoughts about that. And there are so many theories out there. I prefer to believe what the Bible says. Because you can have your own thoughts and they might be hopelessly off track. Something came to me when I prepared this message that's never come to me before, and I've been a Christian for 40 years, more than 40 years. And I want to share it with you today. And I want to make it personal. Because I might never see you again. I might never meet you again. You might never come to this chapel again, although you're most welcome. We have services every Sunday here. But one day, it's not going to be Audrey's picture in front there. It's going to be yours. And there are going to be people standing in front talking about you. So that's the good thing about a memorial service, is it reminds us that we're on a journey. And like Katie said, it's how you end the journey that's most important. Do you end it well, or do you end it in disaster? But here is the thought. Here is the thought that came to me. I think it was yesterday morning when I was considering this message. God, in His love, God wanted to share His love with His creation. He created trees, He created the mountains, He created the sun, the moon, the stars. He created the animals. But He couldn't get a response from them because they are inanimate objects. They're part of creation, but they don't communicate. And so what did God do? He created man in His image. Somebody that he could relate to. A creation, a being that he could communicate with and relate to. And so we see Adam and Eve being created. But in order for this creation, this being, to share his love and to respond to his love, he had to give that being what? A free will. He had to give him a free will. So all of us, as we sit here this morning, have got free will. And we see what Adam and Eve did with their free will. They chose to disobey the God who created them. And not only Adam and Eve, but it went through the centuries and through the millennia. And the book of Isaiah says, all we like sheep have gone astray. All has turned, each one has turned to his own way. And in Romans, which is a New Testament, Paul puts it very plainly. Romans 3 verse 23, all have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. So God created this being with whom to share his love, with which to share his love, to share his glory, to share the glories of heaven. And the Bible says that all of us sinned and fell short and have fallen short of the glory of God. We've turned each one to our own way. And one could say that was the end of the story. This plan of God to create a being with whom to communicate and to love and to share his glory with had turned away and gone his own way. And that's how the sad story ended. But thankfully, there was a plan. You know what the plan was? There was someone in heaven that said, I will go. And I will take the punishment for what they did and what they've done. In turning away from you, Father. And so the Son came, Jesus came. And he went to that cross. And everything that you and I have ever done that's broken God's law, he took on himself. And before he died, he said, it is finished. I've paid the whole price. In Aramaic, tetelestai. It's fully paid. I've done it. It is finished. And so, Jesus opened a door for that relationship to be restored, which the Father had intended from the very beginning. Isn't that an amazing story? I want to add one last point. Does everyone go to heaven when they die? Well, this is what came to me yesterday. When you die, God does not take away your free will. He will still honor your free will that He gave you when you were born. God is not going to take you into heaven if you don't want to go there. God is not going to take you to be with Him if you don't want to be with Him. He's not going to compromise your free will. And this is now the stark reality, the sobering reality, that if you don't want to be with God while you're on earth, He's not going to force you to be with Him in heaven. Now, I'd never heard that thought before, but I'm sharing it with you today because I know that's the truth. You don't want God in your life now? He's not going to force you to have life with Him in heaven. He will honor your free will. So the answer to the question is, do all go to heaven? No. Those go to heaven that want to go to heaven. And that choose to go to heaven with their free will. And there is only one door to heaven, and that is through the death of Jesus, believing in the death of Jesus. There's only one gate. It's not a case of many roads lead to Rome, unfortunately. Getting to God through different channels. If that was the case, Jesus wouldn't have died on the cross. But it was only one in heaven that said, I will go. And there's only one in heaven that can open the door for you and me to be with God. But this is the key point here is you need to choose. Use your free will to choose. Do you want to be with God now on earth? If that is your choice, you will be with Him in heaven. If you don't want Him to be with you now on earth, He won't force you to be with Him in heaven. I want to end by saying, if Audrey could stand here this morning, she would say, come. Be with me. Be with us in heaven. There's no better place. It's the only place to be. Heaven is more, the Bible tells us that heaven is more than we can even think or imagine with our human minds. Her call to us would be, come and be with the family. We're waiting for you. That choice lies with you and me this morning. Do we want to be there with her? Do we want to be there with God? And may the Lord help us to choose the right by God's grace. Thank you so much.